Well, it's Tuesday Wrestling, and you know what that means. So we got another AEW Dark and Impact Wrestling, but also I'm gonna give you guys the last show before Castle Attack on the latest tour, Road to Castle Attack by New Japan Pro Wrestling. All of that will be reviewed, discussed, and talked about on this episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up. 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 Get up, get up.
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone. All things that it's pro wrestling from AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, matches, wrestlers, and championships. I'm your host Jay right here. So let's begin with the last show, or so. Hopefully I'm wrong. Of Road to Castle Attack. So it started out with a little promo with Naito, who recently has been announcing he's been injured, but assuming that he'll be fine. Not sure yet because he was unable to do the remaining tour, the last previous event. He talked about it. There was no English commentary involved, but however, doesn't mean that anything can go his way. But it is what it is. So it started out once again with the Empire in the opening match with Cobb, Osprey, and Khan taking on Kid, Tenzan, and of course Tanahashi. But this time it was Tenzan Kid that made the beelines to the Empire, but however, still grown too strong. Cobb picked up the victory for his team by pinning Kid, but however, Khan is determined to dethrone and force Tanahashi to retire. So basically, he believes that his days are done, that it's now time for the Empire to rise. Now, the next match, we had Bullet Club between Chase Owens, Yado, Tongaloa, and Tama Tonga taking on Chaos, Sho, Toru Yano, Yoshihashi, and Hiroki Goto. As you know, both Tama and Tonga have their title match against Yoshihashi and Hiroki Goto. So basically, and also Chase is facing off against Yano for that KOP trophy. Once again, it goes to another brawl between Chaos and Bullet Club. Not a surprise to me, but it was very good. But do we see in down the line where is it possible that Yoshihashi and Goto could dethrone Tamatanga and Tangaloa? Well, we may never know until we get to Castle Attack. But however, it was Chaos that won the match. All thanks to Yoshihashi. Next match, we have LIJ, Shingo Takagi, and Bushi taking on Bullet Club's Taiji Shimura and El Fantasma, who are the current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. However, if you may or may not have heard, Hiromu is going to be out of action for 6 months. Apparently, he had a torn something on his shoulder. Basically, he will not be able to compete for the titles. Even if he's able to compete within the 6 months after he's done recuperating, he will be still the IWGP champion. It depends on his condition. But the match was okay in certain ways, even though Hiromu's not in there. But one thing for sure, once again, Phantasmo ended this with the sudden death and allowing for his team to win the match. But it didn't end right there. Phantasmo believed that since no one is actually challenging them for the IWGP tag team titles, apparently an old foes showed up. And those foes were Desperado and Connemara. Now, keep in mind, it was them that they beat them, and of course, they were the ones that were accusing Phantasma, believing there was something in his shoe. Now, I don't know what they were saying, but I'm assuming that they want to be the next challenger since Hiromu and Bushi are no longer excuse me, are no longer involved. So we could see these guys, Desperado and Connemara, taking on Desperado and Connemara taking on Ishimori and LAP. So we'll see when we get there. Now, okay, next match is a singles match. We have Sonata taking on Toma Akihama. Now, this was a very interesting match to me, even though there was no story build up. You see Sonata, who's in the top of his game, taking on a veteran like Humna. Great match. I enjoyed it. Now, you probably ask, why is the significance of it? Well, I don't know, but it was a good one. Uh, don't get me wrong, but I liked it. It shows how strong Sonata is, but we would have loved to see him be champion. I feel they should start putting the title on him sooner. And I know probably you guys feel the same way. But he won the match by putting Humna in the skull end. Now we get to the interesting match. We got Bullet Club, Evil, and Jay taking on Chaos members Ishii and Okada. Now this rivalry between these two teams is getting higher and higher at the moment. It's basically you got Ishii who has issues with Jay White, and Jay White has issues towards Ishii since the G1 and your stash, all of this, and of course Okada wants a piece of Evil, but Evil didn't want no of it. But now this time it is. But however, they had to deal with also Dick Togo and Ghetto on their corner, and of course it did allow for Evil and Jay White to win. But however, Jay White continues to choke the life out of Ishii, so that's how it ended. So I'll end it right here with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So let's move forward with AEW Dark. Okay, so we got AEW Dark. Opening up the match is John Skyler taking on Brian Cage. Now, this is the second time I see John Skyler, but however, I'll tell you anyway. Brian Cage took him out, and this could be a preview of what's to come on Wednesday, but also at Revolution during that street fight between Darby Allin and Sting. Next match, this one was an interesting one. We have Serpentico along with Luther taking on Lee Johnson alongside with Arn Anderson. This was a really good match because we're seeing now, okay, Lee Johnson is previous time he was in a 6-man tag team match, but now he is in a tag team match, but now he is in a singles competitor. Great match between Lee Johnson and Serpentico, but however, it was Lee Johnson who won with a nice finisher, and this is going on the record books as a great success of him, and of course, great success for the Nightmare family as well. Next match, we have JD Drake taking on Eddie Kingston. Most of the match, you see JD Drake really putting Eddie Kingston down, but in the end, it was Eddie Kingston that won with the back fist, as always. Great finisher by his part. Next match is Angel Fashion taking on VSK, taking on Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus. Now, you know that these two teams, the Jurassic Express, are not in a good mood due to the fact they have to deal with FTR because FTR criticizes them on various occasions, but it was a very impressive match, throwing a bit of their aggressiveness because they can't wait to get their hands on FTR and Tully. So, Jurassic Express won this match. Next match, we have JJ Garrett taking on QT Marshall. Interesting match. I don't know who Jay Garrett is. This is his debut. QT Marshall really pulling up off the spots, especially when he finished off the match with the Diamond Cutter, the DDP blessed him to use. So, and of course, Nick Camarado was right there with him. Next match, we have Marco Stunt taking on Max Caster. Uh, I don't know what to make of it, but however, Max Caster won the match. Next tag team match, we have Louis Valle taking on and Chris Peaks taking on Dark Order, Alex Reynolds, and John Silver. Great match on their part because they are a good tag team. I even mentioned once before they should compete for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight titles. They seem like junior heavyweight contenders, and then you got Uno and Stu Grayson as heavyweight tag team competitors for New Japan. They should be in, but we'll get to that point. But awesome match on their part, and they did allow it to win the match. Next match, we have Kip Sabian along with Penelope Ford taking on Fuego del Sol. Now, we weren't expecting, we were thinking Kip Sabian still has anger, pissed off issues due to the fact of what happened at his wedding, but he was able to finish off Fuego del Sol. Fuego did not do the Tornado DDT, which many people want to see, but we haven't. Next match, we have Sean Dean and Carly Bravo taking on the Varsity Blondes. Good tag team. I do like this team, how these two teams, how they played it out, especially when it comes to that. And seeing, as you know, Dean and Bravo, they're both were in the armed forces. I have to say we should keep these two together. But the Varsity Blondes, however, are the ones that proved victorious in this match. So they won this one. Next match, we have Nick Mammoth taking on the newest member of the Nightmare family, Aaron Solo. Now, during the match, we just saw Peter Avalon and Cesar Bononi coming out scouting. Now, who will he scouting? Solo or Mammoth? And I think, to me, the obvious answer was Nick Mammoth because he is dubbed as the Hollywood Hunk. And, of course, he won the match. But, however, once the match was over, all three of them, Avalon, Mammoth, and, of course, Bononi, gave Solo a beatdown. But here comes QT, Lee Johnson, and Nick Camarado to the rescue to have these guys stop beating up one of their own. But hopefully we may see a six-man tag team match in this particular Brie Peters group and, of course, the Nightmare family. Next match, we got Evilis and Diamante taking on Miranda Elise and Renee Michelle. Now, if you guys have noticed, there was a hesitate between Miranda. She still feels like she's part of the Sicarias, but they kicked her out because she lost in her match against Nyla. So basically, there's a little bit hesitant, but it did allow for Evilise and Diamante to win their match. Next match, this is an interesting tag team match. We got Top Flight taking on Tony Vega and this new guy, Steve Stenson. I'll tell you anyway who won. Top Flight. Now, this next match, a killer 8-man tag team, but this team, I thought it was going to be a one-off, but now it looks like we could see a thing. I would love to see this. It's Bear Country, Boulder, and Bruiser Bronson teaming with the Concrete Rose, Joey Janela, and the bad boy, Joey Janela. So Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela teamed up with Bear Country once again. I have to say, this is a very odd but unique team. You should form a faction with these guys. I mean, Bear Country are impressive, but they won their match against Umbadu, Levi Shapiro, Daniel Joseph, and Aaron Fryer. But I don't know majority of those guys. But Bear Country, Sonny, and Joey won this match. Next match, we got Peter Avalon with Cesar Bononi taking on Ryzen and Baron Black. I'll tell you anyway, it was Avalon and Bononi who won. Then the semi-final match was Tasha Price taking on Kaylin Ray. Kaylin Ray is still continuing to impress us. We're yet to see her in Dynamite, but it won't be long until we do. Then we got the main event, a three-way tag team match. We have Mike and Matt Sydal taking on the Hybrid 2 and SCU, Daniels and Kazarian. It was unbelievable. It was a good match. Matt Sydal and Matt and Mike are very interesting. I never knew Matt had a brother who wrestles, but interesting group. But it did allow SCU to win the match, and they still continue to thrive as a tag team. So that is it for now for AEW Dark. So let's move forward with Impact Wrestling. Okay, so we're going to end this episode with Impact Wrestling. So it started out with the tables match between Diener and Jake Something. Now, this match was set up all thanks to Diener when, of course, Jake Something decided not to join Violent by Design. But it was a very interesting match. Now, you would have assumed it was going to go either way. But Jake Something somehow was able to survive the table match and allowing himself to win. He took a great victory, but however, it was cut short by Moose. Moose has had enough. He decided that he's not going to wait for his shot of the Impact World title. So he decided to be there. And then, of course, the more comes out, had enough of Moose. So he decided, you know what? You've been going around running your mouth saying that the TNA World title is important. So he took offense to that for a long time. So it now becomes official. The TNA World Heavyweight title is now active, and he set up Moose to be in a match against Jake Something in the main event. So it was great. Now we had a special X Division matchup. Now it started out with a 6-man tag team. First scene, Trey Miguel, Willie Mack, and Josh Alexander taking on Chris Bay, Ace Austin, and Black Taurus. Now, whoever wins the match the following week will face off in a triple threat match, and whoever wins the triple threat match will be the number one contender for the X Division Championship. Now, these are guys who are power hungry, who are willing to do it. Now, my money was on Trey Miguel. I mean, he's impressive. But however, it was Chris Bay who picked up the victory, and his team won. So that means the following week we'll see Chris Bay taking on Ace Austin and Black Taurus. Now, however, while this was happening, Chris Bay, my bad. Trey Miguel, who's disappointed in the loss, once again runs into Sammy, telling him he had no compassion, no heart. I mean, Trey does have that, but Sammy doesn't believe that. Trying to tell him, do yourself a favor, kid, quit. But Trey lost it, beat him down. And Sammy liked it. I don't know what Sammy's intentions towards Trey. I know Trey's goal is that he wants to be a champion. There is no doubt about that. Next up we have is an AEW advertisement. So Tony Khan not only had Tony Schiavone by his side, he had 4% of the roster. He had Britt Baker along with Reba, Ricky Starks, Brian Cage, Nick Meneth, Isaiah Cassidy, and of course Matt Hardy. All advertisement for their matches tomorrow. or should I say, this coming Wednesday. But it was interesting. Next thing we see Havoc and Nevaeh are trying to regroup, try to figure out what to do. They're well aware they're unable to capture the Knockouts tag team titles, but Nevaeh chose to, she needs to figure this out on her own. But once again, you got the nosy chismosa, as we say in Hispanic world, Tennille Dashwood, and along with her chismoso, Caleb with the K. They're trying to get her to be by her side, but Havoc has no interest. We know Tennille Dashwood is not good with partners. It's always been about her. No one's going to trust her. And trust me, Tennille Dashwood should know that, but I don't think she will never learn a lesson. Now, the next match we had Triple XL versus Good Brothers. Interesting match. Of course, I was surprised how Dog Gallows was able to take them out. Especially, he's a huge dude. Taking on two other huge dudes. I'm like, you don't expect that. But it did. But I was so impressed with this match. Now, this was a non-title match, but if Triple XL would have won, they get a shot of the tag team titles. But it didn't happen that way, so the Good Brothers won. Now let's go to the Swingers Palace once again. You got Sabin and Storm along with Alicia Edwards playing a little blackjack or whatever. And then here comes Rohit Raju, who actually messed up, making everybody lose their monies. And Storm was about to pick a fight with him, but Sabin said, no, I'm not going to allow both of you ruin this. So they decided, let's set up a match. And of course, as swinger and sleazy that he is, he actually set up bets. Now, Finjuice were just minding their own business in the back. Once again, the Good Brothers shows up. Finjuice got them really good. They were playing these interesting mind games onto them. I didn't expect that. But it was great. I mean, I would love to see those guys face off for the tag team titles, but can't wait. Now, the next match, we had Eddie Edwards versus Brian Myers. But however, Brian Myers, who is the self-proclaimed professional wrestler, decided not to wrestle. He wasn't in his gear, so he had his attorney, and believe it or not, it's the same Weasel attorney who helped MJF during the Jon Moxley match not to use the paradigm shift. So instead it became Eddie Edwards and Hernandez, but somehow in this match, Eddie Edwards pulled through, and Myers not happy. He is claiming that it's not a healthy work with Edwards. But it is what it is. He's not happy with the results. He can't even get rid of the guy. Now, however, as soon as the match was over, Cardona wanted to apologize for what happened last week, but of course, D'Amore was not having it with Myers anymore with this whole self-proclaim and his attorney. So he set up an eye for an eye match and decided to put Cardona as a special referee. And basically Myers was not too happy. He keeps saying it's not a professional, healthy environment. Well, you made things unprofessional when you decided to say you are professional, but you're not. So that's a pretty good story. But Matt Cardona was laughing, knowing that, oh, I get to call it down the middle. Now, the next match we had a number one contendership for the Knockouts tag team titles. One corner we had Kimberly and Susan, along with Deonna Purrazzo, taking on Jazz and Jordynne Grace. Now, the match was interesting, good. But you know that Deonna Purrazzo is going to ensure, she wants to ensure her faction will have all the gold. And she interfered once again, but once again, here comes ODB taking care of business, and the ref kicked both of them out. But it was a good match without interference. It did allow for Jordynne Grace to win for her team. Now, as soon as they were on the way to celebrate, They decided to find ODB, but apparently she was knocked out. And the only logical suspect in the matter is Deonna Purrazzo. You know how it is. She's the self-proclaimed virtuosa, claiming she is the best, but you know how it is. She will not tolerate the fact that someone had to ruin her plans. Now we get to the TNA World Championship match. Moose versus Jake Something. As soon as Moose comes out to take on the stage, Jake Something attacks him. I feel like Jake Something could have won the match, but it didn't. Moose once again won, and of course, he tried to take out Jake Something because his only goal is to get Rich Swann. Because he claims he's the best wrestler in the world and all that. But here's the problem. I'm still waiting for the opportunity when Kenny Don Callis tells what's his name? Moose, you're not the real champion. Kenny is. Moose will not tolerate that. Neither will Don Callis. But however, Rich Swann shows up to stop Moose from hurting Jake Something. But the more decided, you know what? You want things done in your guys' time, however you want it? No. On my time. So he booked them in a title versus title match or so at Sacrifice. So we are going to see that in March. I can't wait to see it. This is going to be killer. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. So I'll see you guys the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. So I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang!